Welcome to Better Business Results. My name is John Whitt, and I'm your host. We work with business owners, executives, and sales professionals to generate better business results in 30 minutes or less each week. I'm the owner of BusinessWhitt, a published author, and a senior leader in the Focal Point International Coaching Organization, where we have over 180 coaches on all 7 continents. Albert Einstein is quoted as saying that compound interest is the most powerful formula in the universe. If you could improve your business by 0.1% each day, your business would be 24% more effective, more efficient at the end of 1 year. You too can harness the power of compound interest for your business by generating 3 action items each week. That's what we're here to do. Let's get started. So welcome back to Better Business Results. Today our special guest is Ron Shaver. Ron Shaver and I have known each other since high school. And Ron is the owner and sole proprietor of Ronny's Garage. And I'll let Ron tell us a little bit about what he does. So Ron, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So Ronny's Garage, why don't you share a little bit with the audience about what is Ronny's Garage?
Well, Ronny's Garage wasn't always Ronny's Garage. It started out as JR's Classics. He's my father. It's a Rolls-Royce and Bentley service facility. We fix Rolls-Royce and Bentley. And we've been as a family business 36 years. I've owned it 10. I fix really cool cars.
Really cool cars. You know, we were talking earlier, and you actually, because you're shop, you're in Santa Ana there, and you're right sort of in the downtown retail district. You actually get a bunch of guests that see your cars and just kind of pop in on you.
I guess that's a nice way to put it. A lot of looky-loos, yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been over to your shop a bunch of times, and just the what we would call it, the inventory is pretty spectacular. I've seen just about anything and everything in that shop at some point, and I know you've done a lot of things, but besides Rolls and Bentleys, but your focus is Rolls and Bentleys.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about how you got into this business. How did you? I mean, I know it's a family-owned business, but share the story just a little bit.
Well, yeah, it is a family business. My dad started it. I was a bicycle mechanic, factory trained Schwinn mechanic as a kid, and when he opened the business, he asked me to help him, and that's when I started learning on how to fix cars and how not to fix them. But that was a long time ago.
And your ideal customer, I mean, who gets the most benefit out of your services?
My ideal customer is a customer who has a passion for the Rolls and Bentleys. They have no real concerns for cost, and they are not in a hurry. That's my ideal customer.
Well, okay, so help me understand. When you say not in a hurry, what does that mean to me?
They're willing to wait to, first of all, get into the shop, because I do have a backlog, and also it's the type of car I work on generally isn't a everyday driver. So most people that have everyday drivers want their cars that day. They want to drop it off and pick it up that day because they need it. That doesn't work for my business because I'm a one-man shop.
So we'll come back to that, because I think that backlog that you mentioned is important to share a little bit. But the types of problems and challenges your customers experience,
well, since I repair Rolls and Bentley, we're coming into a time right now to where dealerships don't work on older cars. So they have a hard time, my customers have a hard time finding people that are competent in repairing these cars and also do it well. So that's the biggest challenges they have.
All right, and so then how do you solve those particular challenges?
Well, I first of all have a passion for these cars. I've got a lot of experience working on them.
How many of you take a guess? I probably guess you don't keep this record, but how many have you worked on? How many
cars?
Yeah. How many Rolls and Bentleys, right? And I mean in cars, just
you
in
mean
general.
Different Rolls-Royce?
Different Rolls and different Bentleys. If you said, what do you think? A guess. How many a year?
Oh, how many a year? Let me see. I probably do about 300 invoices a year.
Okay, so 300 clients a year, right?
Well, or cars.
For 30 years.
It's a few.
Yeah. So it's like 9,000
I mean, you've just had just a ton of experience at these kinds of things. And how many other guys like you are there out there?
That's the other part of that problem is most of the shops, most of the guys that know what I've known since I've started fairly young are retiring or dying. So that creates a niche for me, a real significant niche, and, especially in Orange County.
Well, but you have national, and I mean, I know you deal, and you got your YouTube channel. We could talk a little bit about that, but you help people on a national and international basis.
Mm-hmm. One thing we didn't talk about it before was that I am heavily involved with the Rolls-Royce Owners Club.
Okay.
Southern California region is the region I belong to. I am their technical chairperson since 2008. So that duty includes having technical seminars and writing articles and all that kind of stuff. So that's where my niche really comes in. So I get emails and questions from all over the world. Like I told you, I had one from Amsterdam this week, a specific problem on a car, and I hope I helped him through it. He hasn't got back to me yet.
Right, but I mean, you provided service to cars. I mean, because these cars are so limited. I mean, there's not like a lot of them out there, and because and people like you are so limited. I mean, I don't know. I mean, even personally, I wouldn't know how to even find anybody else that does what you do. People are willing to go large distances. It's not just Orange County. Obviously, you're in Orange County, but I mean, California, across the country.
Yeah.
What's the farthest anybody's
come
from for your services?
I can't really pinpoint. I get people from Las Vegas.
Oh, okay.
Recently, quite often, because somebody out there doesn't fix them very well.
Yeah. Well, it's just hard to find other people. So, your combination of years of service and you talked about having your customers have a passion for their cars, right? But I think you mentioned that you have a passion as well. Help explain what that means.
Well, I love the Rolls Royces because I've worked on them for so long and I've been in contact with so many. My true passion is in the Rolls Royce. My most favorite kind of car to work on is one from the 20s or the 30s because they are just engineering marvels to me. First of all, the fact that 80 years later they're still on the road and they drive well, plus everything on them is just a piece of art to me. So that's where my passion is. Bread and butter is cars from the 60s, 70s, and 80s because they're high maintenance too. Yeah, and you're not. You're kind of. They got to be 85 or young. What? I don't work on cars newer than a 98.
Newer than a 98.
Yes.
Okay, so that's 15. Yeah. Almost 20 years.
That's pretty much near the end of before Rolls-Royce and Bentley split.
Okay.
That's when they were still all British.
Oh, okay, got it. Share what's your most interesting story? Car restoration. Help us.
My favorite was a 1956 Bentley Continental convertible, which, if anybody follows the market, the Bentley Continentals are worth a lot from the 50s. This was a convertible. How much?
Yeah.
This one eventually sold for close to $600,000. Right now, a lot of the Bentleys are going in the $1.5 million range. It was stored in a barn for 20-something years. It was a convertible. The top was totally gone. The driver's door, it's an aluminum body car, had a hole about this big in the side from a point-blank shotgun blast. And the story was that the wife found out about her husband's mistress and took it out on the car. So this car I took completely apart and put it all back together. Had every nut and bolt plated, took the total wiring harness apart and repaired it. It won a lot of awards and was invited by Bentley Manufacturing to be displayed at a unveiling of a new model. This was probably, 8, 9 years ago, something like that.
So pretty $500,000, $600,000 now $1 million cars.
Yes, a gorgeous car.
Pretty amazing. Do you have any photos?
I have photos, but they're not digital.
Yeah.
A lot of them are Polaroids, so I have those stored, and And I believe there are a couple of photos on my website.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll get a chance to share your website, and it'll be on the video when we get done with this, so that people can maybe check out a couple of those things. So 36 years, owner operator, 10 years, sole proprietor. We actually did a little work together 4 years ago. We'll get into that a little bit. But in our discussion today, and in the things we were talking about in terms of running a business, and certainly everybody's interested in generating some more revenue. But at this point, you're starting to actually think about, hey, what happens later? How do I transition? How do I exit? But you're only you're sort of a one-man shop, and there's not a lot of other people that know how to do this. So I thought what I'd do is let's share a little bit on sort of the exit strategy, succession strategies slide deck that we've got. I'll walk through that, and then maybe we'll brainstorm a little bit on some of the things that you could do to begin thinking and advancing your process of what your exit's going to look like. Thinking in terms of timing of an exit. I mean, if you could exit at some point, what are you thinking? Is that 5 years down the road, 10 years? Probably not 20.
20, no. I'll be lucky to be alive, I think, in 20. But no, I think 10 years would be probably the max that I'd want to go.
Okay,
at this rate.
So in 10 years, and maybe less, 5 to 10 years, something like that. I mean, it'll take a while before we can put things together, but so 5 to 10 years, that would be it. All right, so let's use this slide set here. This is called exit or succession. And we really talk about 3 different types of buyers, right? So the first buyer is the strategic buyer. And with the strategic buyer, this is somebody that's willing to pay more than fair market value for a business because you fit their company, their vision, their whatever so amazingly well, right? So you're more important. Your product, your service, your brand is more important to them than it is to anybody else. The deal with the strategic buyers, it typically takes about a year and a half to 3 years of marketing or selling your business, right? Because we're looking for that special one. We're not looking for anybody and everybody. And then you could have 0 to lots of seller involvement in the sense that, if you were to hire somebody to do all this work, you'd have little involvement. But depending on where you're at in your business, you might have a lot of involvement in doing that. But you get to kind of decide, or you let your assets or your decision-making decide on that particular category. The second class is this entrepreneurial class, right? So we have people out there that like to buy businesses. They buy businesses because they make revenue, they earn revenue, they throw out cash, and they're willing to make investments. Now, in this particular case, you're going to get fair market value. They'll do the analysis, and they'll say your business is worth 2 times, 3 times earnings, whatever that turns out to be. It'll take you 6 to 18 months of marketing or selling, because these are people that are actively looking to buy and sell businesses. Whereas that strategic one, they may not even know that you would benefit them, right? But we would figure out what that is, and we would reach out and talk to them and find out how to deliver the message to them, so that, because they may not even be looking right now, right? But we would find them. It'll take more time then. But as the entrepreneur, again, you've got sort of 0 to lots of seller involvement. So you could hire a business broker, you could do some different things and take your involvement and reduce it significantly, or you could play a bigger role in that particular, but it's your sort of choice. So the last one is the opportunistic buyer, right? And you were commenting on this when you saw this earlier. That's the bottom feeder, right? And so this is the guy that's out there looking for the best deal. He's going to go as little as possible, it's not a lot of marketing and selling. Sometimes this is somebody that just kind of walks in the door and says, "Would you be willing to sell?" I had a property in Oregon, and I was in the Oregon residential real estate market is super hot. So I've been getting these letters from realtors in Oregon, and the one guy, and that's what they are. They're bottom feeders. They're looking for a place to something cheap, right? So he said, "I'll give you $300,000 for it," and we appraised it at $430,000. So I mean, it was kind of crazy. I mean, he was really looking for the bottom of the market, and that's what this bottom feeder opportunistic one is. Now, the other thing that happens with this is that you end up with 0 involvement to lots of seller enslavement, because this is somebody that doesn't know how to run a business, or doesn't often know how to run a business, because if they're in the entrepreneurial market, they understand, and they're willing to work and operate in that fair market value range, right? This is the guy that you're going to end up having to stick around and help and be a part of, and you might have to take a partial ownership, and you might have to take a note back in payment. There's all kinds of things that might happen with this particular buyer. All right, so strategic buyer, this is your A-plus guy. This is where your best deal is really going to sit, and depending on timing and activity, right? But you certainly have time to go operate at this strategic level. And then the entrepreneurial, that's a B-plus, pretty good deal, right? This opportunistic guy, this is a failure. This is not where you want to be. What we find is that people that start out to build their business, they're not necessarily thinking about selling their business when they first start. But the problem that you run into is that life can throw us curveballs, and if we're not prepared, if we're not set up in a position to take advantage of it, if you've not done any of the thinking, then you're going to get stuck having to take whatever that happens. You don't know what's going to come in the door, right? There's any number of different things that could do. We won't get into the catastrophes that could possibly happen. But the question is, where are you positioned, right? So in your particular case, I'm not certain that you've spent a lot of time in this particular area, but let's talk about what you understanding this model and this kind of thing. What is it? What are some of the things that that are running through your mind at this point as far as your particular business with respect to exit strategy succession in the next 5 to 10 years?
The thing I'm struggling with right now on this exit plan that you're talking about is, since I'm a one-man shop and all my knowledge is what I'm selling, I have to figure out how to transfer that to somebody who's buying it or people that will work for him. So I've been working real hard on my software for my labor and parts operations. Training has been something I've been thinking about for a long time, and I've got a lot of, since I do technical seminars for the Rolls-Royce Owners Club, I get a lot of feedback saying you got to hand this on to somebody else, because who's going to do it when you're gone?
Oh, you got people that are interested in that answer.
Right. So I have ideas on how to build a training type situation for operations on these cars, because they're a unique car, and I've had mechanics. I had crews of 4 for longer than I wanted, actually, and I really struggled with training them. And being a business owner, I expected results and profit at the same time, and I never was able to attain that in the years that I had employees. Every once in a while, I get one guy that seemed really golden, and then he just dropped the ball and screwed things up, and so that's something I struggle with. And being the type of personality I have, it makes it even harder.
Yeah. Well, when you have them on staff, you're looking at the day-to-day productivity and profitability, not thinking necessarily about, if they're trained and up and running, what type of value are they bringing towards the sale of a business. Right? Mm-hmm. So you make an investment in training, and I have this conversation with business owners all the time. There's an investment in training. There's an investment in documenting and processing, so that people could do that, right? Because in the long run, that gives you repeatable results. Right. Not a lot of instant return, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of energy that goes in, and the return comes down the road, right? When you have this package, this asset that becomes valuable for somebody else to purchase, right? Mm-hmm. It's certainly not that day, right? Because trading costs time, costs money, right? And you're not going to get the same, hourly rate and value out of somebody that's learning and growing in that particular thing. So it's much more of a, invest today, get a return on investment tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about, when you think about your, the idea you mentioned earlier was, how do I get this stuff out of my head, right? How do I get it out of your head so that you can build a package? Right? That's what you're really talking about doing. How can I build a package that somebody would be interested in? And the package consists of my system, my processes, and my knowledge, some of which is probably documented and in your systems, and some of which is right up there, right? So what do you think how would you go about thinking about that package?
You're talking about the sale?
Yeah. So if you were going to put together a package, well, we try to start with the end in mind. What does the thing look like? Right? What do you think it looks like?
Well, it would have to be essentially a up and running business that didn't require my touching every car that went through the door. That would be a saleable product, I think. Unless we could come up with ideas on how to sell a package with my involvement in training. I've thought of a lot of training videos with one of the, this GoPro thing that's
Mm-hmm.
going crazy, and you see all this kind of stuff on the internet, and then there's all kinds of training stuff. Anything just about you can think of, you can Google it, and you can come up with YouTube on how to, say, replace a battery on something. So I could do this kind of thing myself over time of building training videos with, actual visual process.
Yeah, with the goal of training somebody that comes in and works for you, because as you get this 3-week backlog now, and it's specific to your capacity. There's only so much of Ron.
Yeah, and just to clarify the 3-week, that's 3 weeks to get in the shop. That doesn't mean it'll be done that week.
Oh, right. Okay.
So
Good.
the biggest problem I run into with my workload is I've dialed down the appointments per week, but I never know when an appointment comes in. I can have a phone conversation. I can guess, maybe 1 or 2 days work, and then I find more work, and then it turns out to be 2 weeks worth of my time to fix the car. So then we've got it's difficult.
Yeah. Oh, I totally understand.
It's
I mean,
difficult.
but you are, a quintessential business owner. That's the way business owners, entrepreneurs deal with it, and it's about solving these challenges that allow us to be successful. So let's go back to training. When you talk about doing your training, right? This is a package that then would be a part of the Ronny's Garage brand that is available for purchase, that somebody could maybe want to come and buy, which would be the training system, and then then your estimating system and your accounting system and all those other kinds of things would be a part of this particular package. But you could also leverage that training to bring people on staff today if you thought it was important, if it was added value. Right? And that would be, the thing about videos that are really nice is that they don't necessarily take quite as much hands-on activity. What we do know, though, is that there still has to be a test of some sort. Just because you watched a video, right? We could talk about the 4 stages of learning, but just because you know how to do it, like I know, that doesn't mean you're any good at it, right? Because the rubber meets the road when you go start turning the wrenches or you start doing whatever that thing is, and some things you get pretty quick, and some things are a little bit trickier. And so you'd have to have some sort of a testing and proficiency package after they've watched the video that would allow you to confirm that they actually know what they're doing in that particular task. So think about that. Okay, say, hey, listen, I'm going to build video pack. What's the first one you do?
It would have to be something that would be specific to the Rolls-Royce. They are very quirky. And my YouTube videos, which I have a lot of, the one that's been watched the most is a certain braking component on a Silver Cloud, and it's what confuses people the most. So I would say I would focus on that. I would do a video and
is that the first thing you would want to teach somebody that came in?
well, no.
Okay,
Right.
so I'm going to shift it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right, then shift it. What I've also developed is regular maintenance on these cars is essential. They're very complex. There are a lot of areas you have to look at that you don't see on other cars, and if you don't pay attention to them, they can cause problems down the road. So I have, over the years, made service checklists, which are gleaned in part from the factory ones, and then also I infuse some of my experience.
Invaluable.
And I have, every time I do a service on a car, I have this checklist, and it's specific to that model and that year. And when I'm completed with the cars, I give a copy to the customer, with their paperwork, and then they see what I have done. And most of them are pretty impressed. And what I've found to be profitable in the long run is at the bottom I have a comment section on needed work that's been discovered during that, or areas to look at in the future. And probably 1 out of 2 says, well, let's make an appointment to come back and take care of these.
Well, because these are people that are passionate about their cars. There's almost a love affair with it. And for them, making sure all these little parts and pieces, they're in shows, for crying out loud. Everything is just dialed in to the nth degree. So, they appreciate the fact that you're taking that extra step and not just fixing the thing that's right up in front, and making sure that it's done 100% right and 100% correctly. So going back to the videos, you could start with your maintenance videos. Right? Is there a particular maintenance thing that you would do first?
Well, I would hit most of the cars that I work on are Silver Clouds, which are from 55 to 65, Silver Shadows, which are from 65 to 80, and then the Silver Spirit Spurs, which are from 1980 to 1998. So I would break it into three.
Okay.
I would.
Okay, that shifts the model, right? And then so basically, if you picked which model, would you do first?
I would have to. You're talking about a trainee, somebody coming in to be trained?
Right. If you were training somebody, if you were selling it, you'd have to train the new buyer, or maybe you have to train their staff. You'd have to have some model or some way to do that.
Ah, okay, yeah.
And then if you were hiring somebody, you'd still have to train that person, right? So this is a dual purpose video opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say I'd probably start with the Shadows, because they are the highest maintenance, most complex model that they made.
Okay. And then if you were going to pick a particular maintenance activity on the Shadow, what would you?
Well, it would be a regular maintenance, and I call an annual maintenance.
An annual maintenance.
Right.
Okay.
A 1-year service.
So how long would an annual maintenance video be? If you did it from start to finish, how long would that be?
Well, to physically do an annual maintenance probably takes 2 to 3 hours.
Okay.
So to cover that on a video would be quite a lot of video.
Well, so you'd end up with 3 hours of video, but then you might cut it, clip it, because there's parts where you probably aren't important from a training standpoint. But maybe there are. I don't know.
Yeah, training is one thing. A mechanic, if you hire a mechanic, or an owner who wants to know what his mechanic is doing, obviously, they would have to have at least a minimal knowledge of changing the oil and that kind of stuff. I think the more important parts of the services to these cars are the areas to inspect.
Okay.
So I have done this with the Rolls-Royce Club a number of times in seminars where I get under the cars and point out to the people who have clubs. These are enthusiasts, so they come and they usually want to show up on one of the events that covers their particular model, and they like to see all this stuff. They like to touch things, and to pay particular attention to those areas that normally wouldn't be looked at, I guess would be the focus of the training.
Okay. So this is really all, when we talk about packaging your business, packaging your brand, it's the systems and processes. When we look at the value, right, it's the product and service itself, right? That's a big, really important component, right? Because if that's not very good, nobody's going to want to buy it, right? But then it's the systems and processes that you bring to the table that they don't have to reinvent, right? That they don't have to build for themselves, that have value and allow them to continue to produce the product or the service at the same level of quality and meet the same level of demand. That's where you've got a valuable product. And so doing video is pretty cool, and obviously we're doing it right here, but this is an opportunity we didn't have 10 years ago. You mentioned GoPro. I mean, that's really 3 or 4 years that's, I don't even know how long it's been. It's not that long. And so this is really the way that video go. You can actually strap a GoPro onto your forehead.
Well, that's my thought. That's why I mentioned that.
Yeah. And then talk at the same time as you're going, and now you have a video that's available for, again, if you're going to train your new employees, say, hey, listen, I need you to watch this video, and then there's going to do some testing or something like that to test for proficiency before you turn them loose.
Right.
That doesn't mean he'll never make a mistake, but it does mean that he's got some level of proficiency. He understands some things, and that's what we do from a testing standpoint. But then you turn around and you say, look, this is available. This is a part of the package that is available to the acquirer of your business. So should you make a list of videos that you want to do?
Should I? Yes. Obviously, I should. My current process with the ones I'm doing already for the Rolls-Royce Club is we're trying to not duplicate what we've done before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always a struggle. I do monthly seminars at the shop, so it's always a struggle to find a topic. And I try not to duplicate, like I said. And so what usually happens is whatever car's in my shop, whichever one I choose for service, if it's something I haven't done, then I will save that part of the operation for our technical seminar, so I can do it in front of people. I have found that people, or it's even me, I mean, I have all these shop manuals on how to do the repair operations, and I only refer to them for usually measurements or specifications, because I don't learn by reading it.
That's not your thing.
No.
Yeah.
I have to, if I see it, if I just take it apart and put it back together, I understand how it works. And then with my experience over the years, I've found that doing the visuals for the owners, it just, you can see their lights.
Okay, light bulbs are going on.
Yeah, and the questions start flying, and it's the seminar thing is pretty fun.
Okay.
I really enjoy it. So.
Well, no, that's great. And so now it's really about sitting there and saying, hey, listen, based on what I have today and the systems and models that I have today, how can I strategically use my time and future videos to satisfy this drive or this need as well? And then clearly having a good list of the things that you want to do, and maybe even in the order that you would like to do them, will then help you make those decisions as those things come along, right?
Well, yeah, I could use the opportunity of my technical seminars to start building my business for the future, obviously.
Yeah. Well, building your business future, building your brand, right? Because when you're, I mean, one of your biggest channels, Ronny's Garage, your name is Ron, and so it's when Ron's no longer at Ronny's Garage because you sold it. I mean, how does the brand carry on? And it's really going to be making sure that the brand, that Ronny's Garage, and if they want to rebrand it, they can, but that Ronny's Garage is able to carry on and operate and act and deliver services in the same manner that you always were, right? And that you were able to transition that to the new person. That's where the value really is. All right, so 3 action items. That's our goal. What are the 3 things that you're going to do in this activity, in this endeavor, to move you in this direction?
Just an interjection right now, real quick one. I own my business. I'm a one-man shop. I got a million things to do. I work tons of hours every day, and it just seems like I'm in one of those little hamster wheels.
Oh my God!
Trying to go up the waterfall like a salmon. I just keep, and no matter what, it just keeps piling up on me. But the value of what we're doing right now is that I'm not there. You're placing ideas in front of me and concepts that when I'm in the rat race, I can't even start to think about because I got too many other things going on. Thank you. It's very valuable. It's I'm almost speechless.
Well, I really appreciate the
So
comment.
3 action things I got to do. Well, you nailed one of them right away. I need to think about, at least start to think about a list of training stuff, and kind of prioritize it. I have found from something that you helped me with years ago on just making me think that I could do something with a particular software that I didn't realize I could. I was working with multiple software to try to integrate it, but I couldn't figure out a way. And it was already right in front of me. And the fact that I learned that it was possible made me want to do it. And that's how I've been developing this one part of my business, the estimating business part, by just little by little over the last 4 years, essentially. I have built a huge list of operations on Rolls-Royce specific that covers the labor, the year model, the model, specific model, operations with part numbers and all that kind of stuff. And it saves me so much time now to be able to just click on a specific thing and it just pops out on the estimate and there it is. I don't have to spend an hour and a half, making a list of parts and then pricing them and all that kind of stuff. It's invaluable. But the fact that I have to do it a little by little over time instead of sitting down for a month and holding up and trying to do it all at once, it's impossible.
It just doesn't work that way, right? We just can't. We got too many things to do to try and do that.
Okay, so I covered the list, right?
Yeah.
I've got this whole estimating system I have been building with the end run.
To be a guest on the show, contact us at businesswhitt.com or send us an email. Filmed at John Witt Enterprises, 2 Park Plaza, Irvine, California.